What follows is a project that I've been working on with this client for a very long time, a year and a half. And the client did some welded steel custom doors made out of tube steel with big giant side lights. And the original call was, hey, I need a way to lock these doors that I'm having made. Okay, so those are going to be tube steel that's been cut and welded together. Well, that's cool. We ended up doing electric deadbolts that have cylinder retraction as well. But then that initial supply of material evolved into some additional stuff. And some of that additional stuff was the client wanted to be able to have his access control system be able to know what's going on, not only at those exterior doors. There were two or three of those exterior welded tube steel door and side light openings, and they were 4 foot by 9 foot, big giant 2-inch tube steel, 2x2, with nothing but glass in there, so it's going to look really cool. But he wanted access control to work on his garage door as well, so what we ended up doing is getting him an electric strike, a Von Duprin 6200 WF, and we are able to do latch bolt monitoring in it, lock status monitoring, well, basically keeper monitoring, so we know if the keeper's open or closed, and we know if the latch bolt is present, and then also actually operating the electric strike via access control is writing back to opening it via his access control hardware, a push button, a card reader, whatever it is. All that's being written back to his access control software, so he knows what's going on. When were these events triggered? What he ended up needing was, of course, the electric strike, rather than an electrified lock or whatever it was. He also then wanted a high security cylinder system and was going to use this from somebody. I don't recall who, but I offer that. And he wanted to use something extremely cool, like Obloy. Extremely cool. Or actually, no, it wasn't Obloy. I think it was just Medeco. He started out with Medeco. And we spoke about that, and what he was going to use, what his local locksmith was supplying him was just Medeco biaxial, or Medeco 3, something that's no longer under patent protection. I said, well, that system is great. Medeco, in fact, owns about 75% of the North American high security market. Here's an option. So I distribute Multi-Lock, and Multi-Lock, the MTL 800, has patent protection until late 2030s, like 2039. It has multiple elements acting on the key. It has dimple cuts with telescoping pins, so there's a cut there's a dimple within a dimple. There's also a snake track to it, which controls sliding finger pins. There's also a movable element, or an active element, which is hyper cool, and that thwarts 3D printing, whereas the Medeco technically wouldn't. Medeco is great material, period, end of sentence. Everything about Medeco is top quality people. And I'm not just being boisterous or disingenuously emphatic. I'm telling you from actual experience, the people at Medeco are the best of the best. Turns out Multi-Lock's not too shabby, and I distribute Multi-Lock, so we were able to supply Multi-Lock cylinders. You'll know it if you ever see a logo like this. Yeah, it's Multi-Lock. If you see a logo on a deadbolt or a cylinder, or a key, that's Multi-Lock. So we were able to supply him Multi-Lock mortise cylinders for those key retracting electric deadbolts, and in his Yale Grade 1 knob, which is what is going to work with this Von Duprin strike. Now, the problem that he's got is the guy who installed the electric strike didn't put it at the proper vertical center line in relationship to where the latch bolt is off. Something's off. And what follows is my suggestions as to how to go about potentially solving it. So let's take a look. This is a YouTube video that the client has sent me, And I'm going to let this start. It's about 2 minutes, and we'll just record the screen because I don't have the original MP4 file.
Hey Richard, I'm taking a video of this door wide angle here, so it looks a little distorted, but I think it'll be easier for you to see. So this is the door to the garage. This is the front door with the SDC bolt lock on it, which of course the sun's shining through here, so you can't really see, but that's my low voltage wire that I'm going to run through the door in order to secure this and operate that bolt lock later. But back to this door, specifically on the strip on the ceiling. If you notice, this has got the Von Duprin strike in it, so the door actually has this much play, which is pretty substantial. You know, it has this whole air gap all the way around. It even has an air gap over here on the hinge side. And then on the bottom also is a pretty big air gap. I can't quite fit my foot under it, but it's pretty sizable. So, you know, again, Von Duprin's installed. I'm not sure, maybe the Von Duprin should have been shifted back a little further. That would have pulled the door closer so that it wouldn't have as much play. It's a pretty big amount of play. I mean, it's a whole almost finger width here. Looks like ½ inch if I had to guess. So again, I'm not, you know, again, I use Cothran's for locksmith, but the guy that came out, I don't know that he really is as savvy as we might want, especially if our discussion with this Yale lock, if he was not able to get that fully figured out. But anyway, this is a long enough video. I'll send this up to you, but let me know about the ceiling door, and I'll ship this Yale lock and the multi-lock here with it in just a bit. So thanks so much.
And what follows is simply my suggestions on how to solve the problem. Let's take a closer look. So Colin, I'm looking at your video, and you really strike at the heart of the matter here.
Duprin's installed. I'm not sure, maybe the Von Duprin should have been shifted back a little further. That would have pulled the door closer so that it wouldn't have as much play.
And that is the heart of the matter. When you install a lock set and a strike onto a door and frame, where in your application you've got, okay, here's the jamb, this is your soffit, this is the rabbet, your electric strike is in here. Now, in the edge of your door, you know, you want to strike the center line of the latch bolt with the proper relationship of the keeper inside the area where the latch bolt will reside. And there's no doubt that there is something not right about the positioning of that. My first answer is to remove the strike and do what we call a Dutchman. Pack that back with wood, glue it, let that sit, make it solid again, and then remortise and remachine everything, repaint everything after you've planed and sanded and primed and all that stuff. So you would basically blank all that out and just start over and get it in the right location. Now, having said that, that's pretty extreme. I would also be extremely tempted to suggest that you consider some gasketing, and I'm going to pull up some options to show you here. Now, everything that Jessica gave you is good. I mean, it works. It's going to be acceptable. I would kind of like everything that she also gave you was surface mounted. You're going to see the material. This Q102 kerf, that's not going to happen. You're not going to be able to likely do that at all. So ignore that. Yeah, this option here is surface mounted. I don't love that. I don't want to see it, in fact. There's another option here. Is, this is something that it's meant to go in the edge of a door, but I suppose you could consider, well, you may be able to consider getting a bit exotic about it, just to make this quick. Like I said, quick. Here's your door. Okay. Now, what if you did that? Gap would be closer. And then installed that bubble weather stripping there and screwed it here. You would have to mortise the door. I mean, well, that's not shown very well. That's going to come out like this. You'll screw it in here. That's an idea. I think it's, again, extreme. You would do that to multiple sides. We could also do this sort of concept with a spring in here so that you could adjust the projection of the material. That would be that'd be extreme in my opinion. So I wouldn't necessarily go with that. Now, what you could do easily is buy these rolls of polyurethane foam tape. The reason I like them is because they're different thicknesses and different widths. Okay, this material is cheap too, and my thinking is what you could do attach it right here. It's self-adhesive. Eventually you're going to have to replace it because you'll make contact with it. The different thicknesses are nice because you may not have the same gap over here that you do here. Hard to say. It's foam, so it's going to compress down nicely. So low-hanging fruit. This is your low-hanging fruit. Putting that foam material on to the opening, and I think that might be the way to go. Now, absolutely, you can attach this surface-mounted material, and you can get it in black. This type of concept. There's lots of concepts of surface-mounted material. There's also something else I wanted to show you that is here, made by Zero, and I'll have to find the part number because I don't recall exactly. And what I'm showing you here is you could install something like this right in the margin. It would have to go on the stop of the frame. Pardon me, it'd have to go on the rabbet of the frame. This double bat wing might work as well. Okay. Part on the rabbet, part on the face of the stop, on the stop face. That material is self-adhesive. When I come up with this idea originally, I was thinking this winged material here, 1/2 inch wide. You may be able to get that right to the face of the jamb. Obviously, this concept here is what we talked about earlier, just in a silicone. This would be silicone. Durable, but very soft. So I think it could solve the problem. You could also get into some neoprene, which is going to be less cellulose, so it's not going to compress nearly as much. It would certainly be more durable, that's for sure. Different sizes, as you can see here, available in this type of material. So you might want to consider that. You could also do this pile, but that's what you're going to want to have is something installed such that when you pull the door shut, the weather stripping is going to push the door back and keep it secure against the keeper of the electric strike. Now, what would be super ideal is if the electric strike had shims available in it, and they don't, to the best of my knowledge. I'm going to, let's actually take a look. I'm going to pull up the Von Duprin electric strike catalog here and see what we can. That's not it. So I don't recall your strike, 6213 possibly, whatever it is. But what I'm driving at is, it would be nice to be able to have a shim. You know, maybe you can make one. If you were to, your strike's not this one, I don't recall the part number of the strike, but if you were to drill and tap holes into the backside of the keeper and then install a thin piece of metal like a shim to it, that could possibly solve the problem. That keeper is likely made of stainless, although you can disassemble it to where you may have a machinist be able to do that work on the inside of the keeper. Then you could come up with different pieces of material. That's a wood frame, so you probably have a 6211 WF, yeah. You may have this strike. So that's a concept. I didn't invent that concept. That concept exists by other people, but it's probably going to be least expensive to simply slap on some foam gasketing and be done with it. What I would want to see happen is that the frame get Dutchmaned and remortised in the proper location. That's the bottom line. That's my official opinion. But in reality, that may not be even remotely what you're up for after being in the construction biz. Now that you're a general contractor on top of your full-time job for the last year or year and a half or whatever it's been. Hopefully some of these solutions will work. Let me know what to get in play and we'll get it going for you. Again, thank you for watching, and if you've enjoyed this video, please click thumbs up. Please subscribe and maybe even send the video to someone that you know. Thank you.